Hello everybody and welcome to Langer's Legion. I'm Langer and let's talk Star Wars Legion. And in today's video I thought I would share with folks how I'm going to build my newest army, or my second army, around the Ewok Battle Force Bright Tree Village. For those that watch this channel, you probably know that I primarily play Empire, and this is my first foray into purchasing some new units and starting my second army. So with that, let's get into it. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. To set the table, I'm going to be using Tabletop Admiral to build out my battle force to show the points and whatnot, but of course you can use your list making tool of choice. Just kind of copy this. Maybe the steps won't be the exact same, but the units obviously will be. And I did cover the Bright Tree Battle Force in further detail when it was first announced a few months back. I'll list that video here, so I'm not going to do like a deep dive into that, but I will just cover some of the basics really quick so folks are on the same page. There's just a couple of key things to think about with Bright Tree. The first is Ewoks will not remove suppression at the end of the round, or one suppression token at the end of the round, so you do have to deal with the suppression mechanics that I'll be touching on in here, and as well as what units you can have in the army. Now, granted, this is an Ewok-focused battle force, but you still have to take at least 2 Rebel Trooper units, and that can either be C-3PO, Han Solo, Chewbacca, or Leia from the Commander Operative Pool, or even the Heavy if you're using Chewie in the ATST, or you can use Rebel Core Troopers, or you can use Commandos in your special forces, but you can't use the strike team. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive into the list. As you can see here, I'm in Tabletop Admiral. I've already built the list, so I thought this would just be easier to kind of load up what I've got started with. But for those that might not be familiar, if you get into Tabletop Admiral, you click down, get your army, click down here in the bottom right, and you can pick the different battle forces. Obviously, we're doing Bright Tree, so I selected that. So that's going to just list the right units for you and just kind of make it so you're kind of staying in line with the rules of list building. So with that, for the commanders I've chosen, as you can see here, I've got 4 commandos, and the Solo is the last man out, so he is solo over here, not being chosen. But I did go with Leia, Wicket, Logray, and C-3PO for the commanders in my battle force. And we'll go ahead and start with Leia first. So I picked Leia for her Take Cover 2 and Inspire 2, mostly again for her the supportability of her unit. Now granted, she does have some attacking capabilities with Sharpshooter 2 and 3 black, whether it be melee or for range, but really I took her for Take Cover and the Inspire 2 for that suppression mechanic that I just touched on. And for upgrades with her, I did take Vigilance. So she's going to be handing out those green dodge tokens. Vigilance is going to help her keep tokens on the tabletop at the end of the round for core units, or basically my Ewok skirmishers. I gave her Portable Scanner, so now I've got up to Take Cover 3. So as long as I'm within range 1, I'm going to be able to give each of my core units a dodge token, and then I'm going to be able to hopefully keep some of those around if they haven't used them or exhausted them at the end of the round. And then finally, I did give her Commanding Presence because I do view her somewhat as a support class. She may be, like, let's say, linebacker-ish. I gave her Commanding Presence so she can extend her order range from range 3 up to range 4. So Leia starts off at 75 points, and with these upgrades, we're going to take her up to 98. Next up on that, can't do Ewoks without bringing Wicket along. So Wicket on his base is 70 points. Independent dodge, you've got Relentless on him. He does have a ranged attack, but that's really not what you're going to be using Wicket for. You're going to be wanting to get into melee combat with that spear of his for the 2 red, 1 black attack dice, obviously with the Relentless keyword in there. So to make Wicket a little bit more threatening on top of what he's already got with his his 2 red, 1 black, and surge to crit. I gave him tenacity, so we can add an additional red attack dice to that attack pool, as well as forest dwellers. So at the beginning of the first activation, so basically round 1, he's going to get a scout 1 move just to kind of get him moving forward a little bit. So that brings Wicket up to 85 points there's a little blooper as I just deleted him out of here. So let's add the tenacity back, and we'll add the forest dwellers back. All right, so we get him to 79 points. For Logray, I view him truly as like the linebacker to the linebacker, as a support class, because he is the shaman, as his card states. Let me get that up on the screen. So he's really here to aid, no pun intended here, or actually intended, quite honestly, your trooper units, to give them dodge or aim tokens, as well as to recover minis or restore wounds. So Logray comes with aid, Ewok Trooper. He does have independent aim or dodge, low profile, and he has Inspire 2, which you're going to see as a theme in this whole list. Again, dealing with that suppression. Leia with Inspire 2, Logray with Inspire 2. But with his upgrade cards, I did give him 3. First being Inspiring Presence, Broken Record, dealing with the suppression. That way units within range 1 to 4 can use his courage value when checking if they're panicked or not. So his courage value is 3. So that raises them all the way up to 6, basically, to make sure that they're not panicked. But getting into the more of the, let's call it the true shaman-esque features of Logray, we've got Herbal Medicine. And this is basically going to let you restore a mini to a trooper, an Ewok Trooper unit, or restore a wound. So basically restore a wound to Wicket, or give a mini back to my skirmishers or slingers. Now, a cool thing about this card, or a key thing to think about, is this card is exhaustible and recoverable. So you can use it, recover it, recover it, use it, so on and so forth. This is a key difference compared to most of the medical cards that I can think of in Legion, whether it be for, repairs or whatever. Is usually it's a capacity limit. Usually it's capacity 2, where you can restore the 1 wound or restore the 1 mini, but you can only do it twice. And once that's done, that card has been fully exhausted. At least with Logray, you're going to be able to keep using that. And I do believe that's going to be critical, because I think you're going to be losing minis, especially Ewok minis, quite frequently off the table. On top of that, with the secret ingredients, tying back to my aid comment before, so aid basically allows you to give out an aim or a dodge if you take on a suppression token. This upgrade card basically is going to alleviate Logray from the suppression tax. So he's still going to be able to do the aim or dodge. He's going to get the suppression, and this card's basically, or this upgrade's going to basically remove it from him. So I feel like if you're taking Logray, you're definitely taking both of these cards, the Herbal Medicine and the secret ingredients, as his upgrades. And then finally, for the commanders, we've got C-3PO, aka the Golden God, coming in at 40 points. There's no upgrades for C-3PO. There's no weapons for C-3PO. Again, he's here for support, just like Logray, and again, a little bit like Leia. Really, the key for C-3PO is this Master Storyteller, where he's going to be a Surge Token Factory, and it just increases each round. So round 1, he gives out 1 Surge Token at range 1 to a friendly Ewok unit or Bright Tree unit. Round 2, it's 2. Round 3, it's 3, so on and so forth. So as in the late stages of the game, he's going to be handing out Surge Tokens to up to 6 different units, as long as you've still got those units obviously still on the table. He does have Compel, so he can help again counteract some of that suppression. And then the Divine Influence to keep him upright. Basically, Ewok units are going to get Guardian, and they can cancel crits as well. It's just not just regular hits, so that's pretty important. And C-3PO, at 40 points, why not? Now, to the actual units that I think are going to be doing the bulk of your fighting in this battle force, I've got the Ewok skirmishers. So I took 3 of these. So each unit comes with 6 minis by default, and then I've added the heavy weapon upgrade. As you see with the skirmishers, they are melee only. They're throwing 1 black die per mini. So you're going to want to push them up, right? You're going to want to deploy. You're going to want to get them into the faces of your enemies. And for that upgrade, I did add the Axe Ewok, which is basically going to give you 1 extra mini that's going to add a red dice to your attack pool, but give you Pierce 1, Impact 1 for a little extra weight behind your attacks. And I gave them Call to Arms, which is an exhaustible card. Basically, you can gain 1 suppression, but you gain charge. So again, back to the fact that these are a melee only unit. If I can get those words out of my mouth. We're going to try and push them forward, and with the charge, we're going to try and get into that base contact and get them attacking folks, as well as kind of insulate them or bubble wrap them, because once you're in base contacts, obviously you're not going to be able to get shot at by ranged enemy units, so hopefully that gives you a little extra protection. Now granted, if you get up into a Jedi user or a Force user on the enemy side, you know, they might be able to kind of fillet these guys pretty quick. But if you're attacking a regular, let's say trooper unit or whatever, maybe you can do a little bit better, but you won't be able to get shot from range. So that's pretty important here. All right, now speaking of the opposite of melee, let's get into some range combat. We've got the Ewok slingers. And again, just like the skirmishers, you get 6 minis in a base unit. You do have a heavy upgrade, but you only get the Axe Ewok. And since I pretty much only see these guys as ranged units, yeah, they do throw a single white for melee. I chose not to equip that, save on the points there, but I did give them up close and personal. They are range 1 to 2 with their slings, throwing 1 black dice. So again, to keep them upright and on the table between, you know, Leia's dodge tokens, getting independent surge, let her low profile. Why not give them some more dodge tokens for basically, you know, 8 points for up close and personal? So that's the only upgrade I've added to these guys. Now, I will call out that I did only add 2 units in this regard. The third unit is basically configured the same, but I did add the Ewok Trapper. And the reason for this is there's a very specific command card for Bright Tree called Log Traps that requires you to have a unit with a Ewok Log Trapper or an Ewok Trapper to call the command. So instead of equipping that in all the units at, you know, 10 points apiece, I've decided to go with 1. Maybe keep that unit a little further back or a little bit more isolated to make sure I can get to that command card compared to the other 2. But that's the real difference between this single slinger set and the other 2 before, the 2 units before. As you can see, this one comes in at 53 points with the Trapper compared to 43 points minus the Trapper. And then finally, really the big guns in this army, it's Chewie in the stolen ATST, which pretty much very familiar, like I've talked about in the Bright Tree overview video, pretty much exactly like the Imperial ATST, except for what I would call 2 major improvements, and then 1 that's just kind of Ewok focused improvement. For the Ewok focused, it is that the card comes with, or this unit comes with, Inspire 3. I sound like a broken record, but again, that's to deal with the suppression mechanics of the Ewoks. But the 2 main differences compared to the Imperial one is this unit does have Incognito. So as long as you do not shoot the weapons out of this ATST or claim an objective and stay out of range 1 of an enemy unit, the bad guys can't shoot at you. So the bonus of that is you've basically got a walking and potentially talking heavy cover or line of sight blocking for your Ewoks. So my plan is to kind of conga line them behind Chewie, at least as best I can, based off obviously the objective or the terrain, but leveraging that incognito keyword to give me some protection to these Ewoks. And then the second item worth mentioning is Chewie gets Surge to crit, whereas the Imperial one, if you to get Surge, even Surge to hit, you have to equip the Hammer's pilot. So Chewie bringing his expert aim, apparently all those years of shooting guns on the Millennium Falcon, with that Surge to crit. And then you got the grenade launcher, the single rainbow twin light blaster, and then the triple rainbow twin blaster on Chewie. All right, and that will do it for the units in this army. As you can see, that brings me to 791 with 11 activations, really 10 activations for attacking, because obviously C-3PO doesn't have a weapon. But anyways, and then I went with the 791 because I was hoping, or I'm hoping to win the bid, because I feel like with Bright Tree, you're definitely not going to be looking to tabling your opponent or, you know, blowing them off the table. You're definitely going to be playing more of an objective focused match. So to kind of help steer that, going in with the lower bid just to try to get to that outcome. And then for commands, let's talk about the command cards. You know, so with Leia, we're going to bring Coordinated Bombardment, which basically gives her a range 4 to unlimited attack against 3 units, which is immune deflect, throwing 2 red dice. We've got the Log Traps, which is the command card I was talking about that requires the Ewok Trapper. So basically, if a unit's got Ewok Trapper, you can use this attack at range 1 to 4, impact 4, pierce 1. 2 reds, 3 black. So this is going to be your kind of your heavy hitter for armor damage. So against another ATST or Dark Troopers or an AAT or whatever you're going against that potentially has got armor. You know, great card to have with the impact 4. Brains and Brawn. This is kind of the reason why I took Chewie in the ATST. So this card basically lets Chewie add one of his ranged weapons into Leia's attack pool, as long as he's got line of sight to the enemy unit and is in range 1 to 3, and Chewie's quote unquote not engaged. Well, since Chewie's in the ATST, as you hopefully know, vehicles cannot be engaged in melee combat. So this, as long as you've got line of sight and you're next to Leia, you should definitely be lining up an attack with this card, because then you're going to be throwing in, you know, maybe Chewie's twin light laser if you're range 3 or lower, or maybe his twin blaster, which is throwing that triple rainbow. Again, just to kind of add to those 3 black dice with Sharpshooter 2, you know, that Leia is throwing down. So this is kind of a must-have card in my mind, at least if you're bringing Chewie in the ATST. Could be if you bring just regular operative Chewie, but really didn't look at that one, to be honest. Next up, you got a beautiful friendship. This is the teamwork card for Wicket with Leia. So key on this card is when Wicket and Leia get the orders, basically they get to issue one order to the opposite, I don't know, let's say faction type, I guess, meaning Leia gets an order, she can issue an order to an Ewok unit, and Wicket gets an order, he can issue an order to a Rebel unit. So in this regard, C-3PO or Chewie in the ATST. We've got Courageous Counterattack, which is a Wicket card. Basically, any unit that gets a face-up order token gets unlimited courage, which is going to be 2 units. And then when that unit does any attacks, for every mini that's been taken from that unit, it adds a white attack dice to its attack pools. And then finally, I'm going to leverage for the tribe, which is an actual Bright Tree Village card, the only one that I'm using that's specific to Bright Tree. But an order that's issued by this card may recover. So again, maybe it's you've used somebody that's got the charge or whatever, or previously haven't exhausted it yet. And then they can recover that or clear into the suppression as well if they have any. But then they're going to gain Dauntless and Relentless. Now, granted, with the charge on the skirmishers, I'm not sure which one might be better, that or Relentless. I think you get a little bit better options with Relentless compared to charge, but that might be situational. But the Dauntless is nice as well on top of that. So that's the 3 pip. And then finally, we have standing orders. The must include 1 unit, 4 pip, you know, that you maybe you play early, maybe you play late, I don't know, but you got to have it in your hand. So that does it for the commands. And then, like I mentioned, I do feel like you're going to be very objective focused with the Ewoks. Again, you're not going to be looking to table anybody or get into just a flat out brawl with anybody. So for the battle plans, I kind of picked ones that I feel like are going to best represent that. So for objectives, I did recover the supplies, did key positions because that one is at the end of the game. So again, you don't have to necessarily, like for intercept the transmissions, kind of get up there quickly, kind of dance around things a little bit. So I went with key positions, sabotage, the the moisture evaporators. Again, this is a good defensive one. Keep things back. Potentially with the low bid, my opponent's going to have to come to me because they're going to have to try and break that tiebreaker with the point difference. And then finally, I think hostage exchange is a really good one for the Ewoks to take place in. You've got the core units, 6 minis, low profile, maybe get them in there and you start moving them forward, get them out of harm's way. So that's it for the objectives. For deployments, major offensive, danger close, hemmed in, could be situational. I do like the idea of this one just to keep everything together for those token factories between Leia and Logray and everybody, just to kind of keep the units as opposed to doing them sprawled out. And then finally, advanced positions. And this one, mostly because of the free Scout 1 for all the trooper units. So notice again, the Ewoks are going to want to get into melee, at least for the skirmishers. So just getting a Scout 1 on top of that. For conditions, clear conditions, fortified positions, rapid reinforcements, and hostile environment. Now, all these I picked because for the suppression mechanic, again, for the Ewoks. So obviously clear conditions doesn't have anything. Fortified positions helps with the cover. Rapid reinforcements is going to help me place units further ahead depending on, which objective that we get. So maybe if I get key positions or recover the supplies, or even hostage exchange, to be quite honest with you. And then hostile environment. Now, granted, I can't remove suppression anyways. So with the Inspire, I don't really have to pay a tax on this one, where maybe my opponent does, because I'm going to use the Inspire or everything from my commanders to try to take those suppression tokens off my units. All right, with that said, that is my plans for Bright Tree. If you've put anything together, some thought around your Ewoks or your Bright Tree, or maybe you're going to use Ewoks in just a regular Rebels battle force or Rebel army, excuse me, I'd be interested in your thoughts. Please post them down below. And until the next time, hail to the Empire.